All right.
Good morning, Xan.
Uh-uh. I had to get one that way I could actually go into stores. I bought an InfoWars Alex Jones one, but
Oh, okay.
I can barely hear you.
You hear me better now?
Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
Let me know if it gets too low.
No, it's fine, man. I'm freaking out, man. I've never felt so I don't know, man. It's got me messed up. What's going on? I'm literally about to start a little colony out at my camp.
Yeah, it's crazy. So updates for us
Yeah.
is we have Gretchen Whitmer.
Oh
She
yeah.
made the mask mandatory for all the businesses, and if the businesses don't enforce the people to wear the mask, then the business itself gets fined $500 per customer. So
That's the thing. Who's going to go in and enforce that? That's the thing. So what if they impose $1 million per second that every customer isn't X, Y, and Z? It's just like, who's going to enforce all this stuff? These are just threats. It's a beta.
yeah, yeah, and it's been all over the news. The businesses were like, "Dude, it's not our job to enforce your laws for
Well,
you."
that's what they're doing. They're
Yeah,
forcing other. Oh man.
and since that's happened, we've had uh, muggings, stabbings, shootings, murders because of this shit at our stores, even locally here, right by me, over this shit. Crazy. So they've done a real good job at expanding the criminal empire. Yep. Oh, and the state legislature here, the House and the Senate, were both trying to sue Gretchen for her overuse of executive orders, right?
Yes, every governor needs to be sued right now because they're all
Yeah,
doing it.
because she's not supposed to keep extending it as far as she wants. There was a daily limit, and she just keeps surpassing it. And the legislature's trying to sue her over it, and the Supreme Court justice here said she was not guilty of any wrongdoing. So she just gets to keep doing it. We're already extended into August 11th. And so because of that, a federal court judge was waiting to hear the decision on that because there's a petition going out to try to appeal or remove the law that granted her that power, the executive power, right? And now there's a law firm that's trying to sue the people making that petition. It's fucking mad crazy, dude.
Nothing surprises me anymore, man. I just think it's
It's so bad.
yeah, I think it's a matter of time till we get all rounded up and just fucking they just fucking kill us. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna turn citizens on us. That's what they're gonna do. It's gonna be the brainwashed versus the conformist versus the nonconformist. Like I've said,
Right.
this is shocking. This is not a free country anymore. This is I've been knowing it's been hijacked. They were at least doing things behind the scenes. Now, I mean, we're just going to be in full blown anarchy. And whenever Donald Trump wins again, imagine the riots the media is going to provoke. I mean, the media
Oh
is going
yeah.
to go out and just kill, go out.
Right.
In so many words. They might even say that. I really think CNN would be like, start killing people.
Mm-hmm. I don't doubt it. Uh,
Have you been racking up on guns and food or things like that? Can we talk about that for a little bit?
what's that?
Can we talk about racking up on guns and food, or like what should we suggest to our viewers to start doing? That's what I started doing. I bought an AK yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I bought an AK. Uh, got a lot of really nice smoked salmon in jars. I have a lot of millet, oats, things like that, and I'm about to just start moving everything to a more remote location and just hang out here during the day, but crash somewhere else.
Well, there's a few things that are changing all at once besides these executive orders and crap. and this is the main thing that triggered me to want to do another money episode with you.
Okay. Okay.
Is the losing cash.
Oh,
So
yeah.
gotta find a way to establish a means of exchange that doesn't require the system as much,
Yeah, I remember that. Went to CVS and they want only exact change and they just say it's a shortage.
Yep. And I got a video I can link us to on that. I'm going to be constantly pulling up a bunch of tabs I have marked while we're talking. So if you don't see me looking at the screen, it's...
No, I'm not. Yeah, no. Let me know when you're ready and we'll do a screen share for the audience so we can see all this stuff.
I was up till like 4 in the morning last night organizing this shit because dude, this topic is so huge and it's been manipulated for so long.
It's screwing the pooch. That's all they know. That's all they hand down is a screwed pooch,
Yeah. So
why don't you hit the screen share and we'll see what you have. All that hard work you've been doing. Thank you, by the way.
Right. So first off, here's good old Gretchen. Let me share it. Which way do I want to do it? This way?
If I do it, it's going to show me. So you're going to have to do it on your end. There we go. Okay. Let me get my glasses for this.
So you see this right here?
Not yet. I'm still waiting for it to load. It takes a little while. Hold on. I did this last time. There we go. Okay. I'm with you.
So this is Bridge. This is like Michigan's welfare program right here, right? This is straight from their government site. Even though it doesn't say .gov, Bridge MI is the corporation that's been attached to the state of Michigan to handle welfare. Right here, Whitmer team gave green light to contact tracing firm with Democratic ties. So now she is trying to backpedal and say, this is just, we didn't understand all the limitations or whatever that was going on with this, blah, blah, blah. And she said that she canceled this arrangement, but it's only because it was going to interfere with some other larger contact tracing thing that she already had planned. And this just talks about the legal, I think she didn't want it to have such strong Democratic ties when she went to launch it, It's just crazy. But it is in the work. Yeah. If anybody wants to read this, just go to this site, bridgemi.com, and just to see this is the bullshit that's going to be happening to everybody, This is a pre-warning. Yeah. Ignited a partisan controversy that led to the cancellation of the Coal House contract and delay in selecting a new vendor. So they still plan on doing this. And it's just a law firm that's going to be able to access all of our cell phones to find out where we're going on a state level, not on like big NSA, CIA level, on a state level, where they can access all our records, see where we've been, and as soon as we get pegged, one person tests positive, it's going to go everywhere you've been, and then start testing everywhere, the people that you've met and all that crap. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah. I don't know if you got anything come down the pipeline in Louisiana that's going to be looking at the same thing.
Yeah, we have a really unpopular liberal governor. I don't know how he made it other than, illegitimately.
Yeah.
But it's like they only allow a puppet that they know that can be bought in that position of power. We're not going to get anyone altruistic that's going to fucking change.
For sure. And I almost wonder if we would have had a Republican governor here, would the Democrats have went crazy about all this excessive, push? I don't know. It definitely seems like a national thing that's getting pushed down to all the governors,
yeah,
whether a
yeah,
Republic or a
yeah,
Democrat.
yeah. Because you got DeSantis and you got which is Florida, and you got Abbott, which is Texas. You know, Texas, shit, a month ago they mandated masks for everyone, everywhere. You know, and
Yeah, and it's
it creates
outside for
such a
you,
counterculture.
right?
No, they passed it Monday. I think we did an interview that day, Monday.
Uh,
Everyone has to wear it. It creates such a counterculture, man. I mean, I can't go anywhere without it. It's like it's the most frustrating thing.
yeah, we just had a dude have a showdown with the police. Got 2 or 3 days ago. Some dude approached him in a local store. Told him to put his mask on. He refused and stabbed the guy, and then took off. And then the police chased him down, and then he went after the police with a knife, and the police shot him dead.
Oh, well, good. One less
Yeah.
mask wearer.
I mean, just craziness, dude.
It is. It is. You know, a lot of people have a lot of pent up frustration, and you know they don't know what to believe. The people that, dude, most people I talk to, they think you know this is all going to stop. It's all going to go away, and that's what I'm trying to tell people. Like they're not going to repeal this stuff. They're not going to get rid of masks. What don't you get?
Yeah,
We're going to keep
whatever happened to
doubling,
her, like
doubling, doubling.
dialing back the restrictions and bringing the economy back? It seems like it's
No,
getting
no, no.
worse.
Yeah, that's what people don't understand. People still have hope. I'm like, when are you going to quit? And look, I'm all about having hope. I have hope that I'm going to survive, but
Hmm.
you got to take it into your own hand. Like people are just, they will literally sit here and be like, there's no, you know, world order agenda as they're being cuffed and taken to a fucking concentration camp. They'll still tell themselves that, like, oh, I'll be out soon. You know, like how long, you know, until you fucking get it, till they
By
whack
the
you.
time I come back, the Constitution's gone.
Oh yeah, dude, the Constitution.
It is getting railroaded right now. It's horrible.
Well, it's a doormat for politicians, you know.
Yeah.
That's where they stop and scrape off their nice shoes.
I have so many bookmarks.
Okay,
And
well,
I'm
start hitting
trying
it.
to get them.
Start hitting it. Just you take control.
Yeah. Um, so what would you consider to be wealth? Since we're on the
Wealth,
money topic.
wealth. That's a funny thing. Wealth means disposable income you can spend like you want. You know, never have no with no recourse.
Okay. And the way I defined it is like an inequality of finance. If everybody has the same amount of whatever, then there's no difference. So there's no wealth, either low wealth or high wealth.
Yeah, you have
We
to
all
have.
have the same, right?
Yeah,
So
you're
there
right.
has to be some type of inequality. And
Okay.
that creates power. Wealth creates power. It creates a need, a scarcity, stuff like that, right?
Yes.
So when I look through history and everything, which goes a long way back when you're talking money, um, it has a very. I want to make sure I'm doing this in the right order. I want to do. Yeah. So like in Rome's time, right?
And
They,
The Roman ages,
yeah, we're talking like
2,000 years ago.
right after, out of the pagan and into the monotheism. They're starting up Catholic Church and all that. They were against usury, and usury is when money is lent out and charged interest to return back.
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's so the banks can make money. So the lending establishment can make money.
Yep. That's what bankers use, and even though it didn't really explain it, but it did say in Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, the Roman Council that put together the first Christian Bible, was that usury was bad, and I think what they were really trying to do, what Rome was trying to do, was to convert Jews to become Christians. And one of the things they wanted them to stop doing was loaning money to other people at interest, right? according to their own religion and the Talmud or whatever it was, that they can't loan to each other at interest. That's illegal for their own religious law, but they can do it to other religions.
Mm.
And that
Basically
was kind of a
implying
way.
that other people are worth less.
So
That
it was kind of a way to put all the other races in debt to the Jews, and I think that was something that Rome wanted to stop and get control of, because Rome is all about copying people. It copied Greece for its gods, and then just renamed them, and then
they Romanize things. It's called the
yeah,
Romanization. Yeah.
yeah, they're known as the great forgers of history, and I think that's kind of how Rome got Christianity rolling. And I feel bad for any Christian fanatics out there that say, have their own origin story. But if you look at history and you see patterns of how societies work, it makes much more sense that they just wanted to convert Jews into their society, because you can't conquer people just by slaughtering them. You want them to work for you, create a religion that they're going to convert into and change the rules up so it fits your society better. So no more usury, right? That was the big push. And when you look up, this is Wikipedia's usury. Right here is got a whole block. This is just on Wikipedia about Judaism and just how about right here. There are permissions to charge interest on loans to non-Jews. That's it. This is outlined in the scriptures of the Torah. So that's the Old Testament. Everybody can look into this. They're really big on philanthropy and poor communities. So, and then England. This is pretty big here in England. The departing Crusaders. So who are the Crusaders? The Crusaders from France turned into the Knights Templar, but the departing Crusaders were joined by crowds of debtors in the massacre of the Jews at London and York, 1189, 1190. This would have been right after the Big Crusade. So, and then after that, Edward I of England passed statute of the Jury. They were persecuting the Jews hard for usury and all this stuff. Just that's when by the 1200s the Jews were being pushed out of Europe really bad, So, and I feel bad for the Jews because they got kicked out of their hometown. Many different nations that came in and either enslaved them or kicked them completely out of their own house, and then they would come back, or they try to settle in other countries and they get persecuted there too. But I try to look into why they were persecuted, and this is mainly the reason that came up was usury. So you also have Charlemagne, who was the first Holy Roman Empire. He was the King of France turned the first Holy Roman Empire. And he also was pushing this no usury. And that was around 800 AD. And he's the one that kind of united all the European countries into the Holy Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire.
I love this story. Yeah, man. Expansion.
Yeah, let me pull my bigger tab. Like I said, I looked up a lot of stuff. Here it is right here. So this seems like a pretty good article. It's from eon.co. Somebody did an essay on it. And me with looking up info, I don't like to get from Wikipedia all the time, but it's very quick and organized, and it cites everything, so it's good reference. You can debate whether the information is good or not later, but I also like to go to just work that people have done in colleges and stuff, because they're doing research too on this,
Oh yeah.
And on this this article, this Aeon, it seems to be like an independent journal. It talks about right here. it talks about how the churches were using usury to scare people into not doing it and stuff. In politics, Aristotle described usury as a birth of money from money, and it claimed it was unnatural because money was sterile and it should not breed. Just
Ah,
many different ways to look at it. Here it talks about Charlemagne, he was 800 AD. And the Divine Comedy, if you know Dante's Inferno, that story, where he's like a crusader that has to go through the 9 circles of hell to rescue his beloved. They even made a video game and everything on it. That has also to do with usury. One of those circles of hell, I think, was purgatory, and that's where the usurers were. So that's just an example of this being in literature, you know. But this is a very good article. People should. I read through it last night, and it was really eye-opening. Catholic Church was pushing it hard. Yeah, I'm gonna let your audience look through it and stuff, but I definitely recommend this. And then I went to right around the time of the Jews being kind of expulsed out of England or being really persecuted and stuff around the 1200s.
yeah.
We have Knights Templar being involved. They were one of the known first beginners of banking because they would let people store their money at one commandery or whatever a fort of they had, and they could go pick up their money at another Knights Templar fort at their location that they're going to. So it was a way to safely keep money. And the Knights Templar also used to escort people to Jerusalem from Europe so they could not, they wouldn't get robbed and stuff like that. That was their job. And they started basically the whole kind of booking, deposit here, withdrawal here kind of deal.
Telling, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, we have the Medici family. And there's, I think Crow just put out an episode dealing with Medici. I think just did yesterday or something, which I haven't even heard yet, but I'm looking forward to it. But the Medici family is very famous for being a banking family, especially that fueled Florence and I think they basically took over the finances of the Catholic Church because they created the first ledger system, like deposit, withdrawal, being able to tally it down, whatever. The ledger system they created started modern banking also. I don't know if there's ties between the Medici and the Knights Templar yet. That's something I'm still trying to find. I know there's a very close Jesuit connection, and this I don't know quite where I was going with that. Besides that, they helped implant into the Vatican, got a cardinal up to Pope status, who was then helping them create more wealth by, whatever, papal bulls were enacted and stuff like that. But they became one of the richest families of that time, the Medici. And then, so that's, I don't know if the Medici's are around Jesuit time, I'm assuming, so 1400 to 1500. Before that, right, most of Europe is like absolutely no usury, to include the Catholic Church. And I think the reason why is because they figure the only people allowed to charge money at an interest would be the emperors or the Catholic Church,
Yeah.
They don't want people themselves exchanging money for interest rates because then one person is getting a lot of power. They like, I'm pretty sure the emperors and all them want to be the ones in charge of charging an interest and making sure the power gets to them and the debt falls back on the people. That's what I would assume was happening with that. And then, so after this, King Henry VIII and them started to allow. King Henry VIII was in England right around the time of the Reformation, right? The Catholic Church had finally started saying we can start charging at low interest and stuff. This around 1500s. King Henry VIII was also starting to do it too and justifying it. And then by like 1600, we then have the what's it called? The Dutch East India Company in 1600s. They were before the British East India Trade Company, but the Dutch East India ones were one of the first places where there was an actual stock exchange where all nations could meet up. They could exchange their goods with different currencies, and get it back out. It's like the first stock market, basically. And that set up the precursor for the British East India one that took over in the 1800s. And before we get right into that, we have obviously our country being set up. So the Protestants were against usury for the most part, but when they got expelled out of England and started settling the U.S., the Jews had already left Spain and were already settling in the Caribbean, right? But it was a very low population in the U.S. that were Jews at that time. And nothing was really going unchecked to keep usury out of the U.S. as it's being founded. And the Catholic Church was just following right along with the whole movement into the U.S. and everything. I mean, craziness. And so I looked up the first national bank in the U.S., and that was the very first one was in like 1782, I want to say. It was during when we were Articles of Confederation, before we became a constitutional United States.
Yeah.
And this one was privately owned. This was a privately owned national bank. But when they started the U.S. Constitution and all that, they decided no more big private centralized bank. Like we're going to have our government national bank, right?
And what do we have now?
Yeah, now we're back to private. But so that first national bank that was chartered by the national government, by the Congress, right here. It's the charter required by the U.S. Congress. Obviously, they ran into a few problems. I'm really trying to find a way to speed this up. There's so much to talk about. I know they were trying to get money back a lot for the war bonds they had to borrow for the Revolutionary War. They wanted to get their own national type of currency going, right? Instead of all the different states having different types of monies, and getting the money from other nations out and getting our own national type of currency going. So, it was a good thing, but it only had a 20-year charter to try to make things right. And this is under Alexander Hamilton, was the secretary or the U.S. Treasurer at that time. And this is also when I believe Jefferson was president. Because Jefferson and Hamilton had it out over this. Jefferson did not want to have a national bank. He said the states need to keep their own banks because we grow at different economic times, Virginia had already paid off all its debt. It was good to go. It was in the plus. And all these other states that are still in debt were trying to connect into one network now with the national bank. And that would have screwed over states like Virginia. They would have taken on a debt that they
would have to suffer for the bad. Yeah, equals everything out. Yeah, there's no shining. Yeah.
Right. and they would lose, a bit of control over their own finances for their state with a big national bank in there. So Jefferson was very against it. He said that this will destroy state citizenship. This will, or not state sovereignty, and he has a lot of really good arguments in it. And I found a video by Tom Ritchie. I'll just plug it in here. Tom Ritchie is an actual professor at a school, and I think he basically does history and stuff like that. But he did this one against Jefferson versus Hamilton, the whole argument, and it turns out pretty good. See, this is why I don't bring up YouTube when we're doing this stuff.
It's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, then between Jefferson, while Jefferson is doing this, right, we have the Louisiana Purchase. So France has already had their revolution, and they're expelling feudalism. And then Napoleon gains his power and sells the land that France had in the U.S. to the U.S. for, I think it was $5 million at that time. And this put the national budget in the plus. We were finally at a surplus, you know what I'm saying? And so that was one of our best economic times we had, is when we got that money. And then Louisiana, and that's everything from the west side of Mississippi up through kind of like a triangle cut up through North Dakota and stuff like that.
I've sent you a text.
So we got a lot of money from France, from Napoleon, to do that. Oh, I should have put in the whole title. Come on. Jefferson. Yeah, versus Hamilton.
There you
go. So he does a really good job explaining this. Yeah, right there, that video. And I'm not going to play it. I just wanted to show the people on the screen. Or else it'll bog down like crazy. So that one.
Good.
And then you have that charter ended up running out for that bank by 1811. And then we had the second charter bank, or second national bank for the U.S. And then that one got a lot of problems because we now have Andrew Jackson as the president coming up.
Yeah.
And he's just trashing Hamilton over this national bank, right? At one point, he was kind of like losing the argument of saying why it's not working. It was actually doing pretty good, fulfilling its needs for the finances of the country. But Jackson was so against it, he ended up just going to the national banks and just confiscating all of the U.S.'s money it had in there and pulled it right out. It was like, nope, without legislature or anything. And what's funny about this is that Michigan, a lot of our counties are named after Jackson's cabinet he had.
Oh.
We have Jackson County, and it's named after him. We have Ingham, which is this one, Eaton, and God dang it, there's another one. There's a couple of them. They're all from his cabinet, and they all just got like free county names up here, and nobody understands the history of it. There was even the Petticoat affair that had to do with it. So it was a bunch of crazy shit, but nobody knows who Samuel D. Ingham is, probably except for me. It's just stupid. It's not worth having. That's why it's going to be Syroka County. So,
hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Get it, man. Plant your flag. And if you,
Yeah, man.
someone else will, or worse, the government will. It'll be
Mm-hmm.
COVID County if you don't make it Syroka County.
Right. I don't even know if I want to call it a county anymore if I have to, because I don't want it to be
It's the microcolony of Syroka.
maybe Kingdom, Syroka Kingdom.
Well, then is it going to encourage other people to want to move there? You know what I'm saying? They'll think they have to submit to your rule completely.
Right.
Equal. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
I hear you.
I'm just having a microcolony. It's its own sovereign deal of Syroka, the district of Syroka.
So the second one, I think I just already kind of said what it was about. Let's make sure I'm not missing anything before I go on to the next. I tell you, this is one great thing about Wikipedia is it's separated, it's organized. I can go link to go through history.
Never stop.
Yeah, the second one, chartered by Madison. And I think, yeah, Jackson had his bank war, like I was telling you. Totally going against the big banks and stuff like that. And then you go over to the history. So this covers up to about 1836. And when these banks, when their charters are done, they were a government building, right? Then they get sold to the private sector, the building and people that work there. So then it becomes a private big bank. And if people are still using it, it's operating almost the same way. So I don't know if we brought it on ourselves or what. But then you go into history of central banking in the U.S., and then it helps pick up the rest of the pieces basically all the way to present. So we have, make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope. There was the Panic of 1837, right after the close of that Second National Bank. This was like our first, this may be our second, yeah, fuck it. Oh, see, I already missed the Rothschilds. I got to pay attention. So I think the Panic of 1832 was like the second time that we faced like a depression in this country. And we already had a stock market up by this time. And it seems like anytime that gets manipulated, we go into a depression, and then a new bank has to be made or something like that, to help rein things back into control. But when we go back just a little bit, before that Second National Bank was created, and it was right in between the first and the second bank, between 1811 and 1816, is when Napoleon was tearing up Europe, just tearing it up, right? He went over to the Vatican, kicked that Pope out, put a new one in, reestablished the Jesuits, and then he supposedly there was a Rothschild informant. Rothschild was like a Jewish family living in the ghetto. They claim that they came up from hardships. I don't know how true that is, but they were in England, and they supposedly spread the word to the Bank of England or the banks in England that Napoleon had won the big battle with England, and that he was coming up to conquer, the island and everything. And so people just sold all their stock in the bank, and then Rothschild bought it up pennies on the dollar, right?
It's like they engineered the Great Depression.
Yeah. And that supposedly is how Rothschild got his, that would be, is that Nathaniel?
Yeah, Nathan.
One of them got the big bank. I don't know what that is. So it almost seems like Napoleon was helping create this national financial crisis for England that allowed Rothschilds to move in and skate it up. I don't have an exact tie between them yet, but it seems close. And yeah, so then we move on. Now we have the Second National Bank is done. We hit another depression. Now this is what the crazy part is. The state of Michigan was recognized by the U.S. Congress in 1837, and we were recognized as a state here finally. But at that time, created the Michigan Act, 1837, allowed the automatic chartering of banks that would fulfill its requirements without special consent of the state legislature. So anybody could just start a bank. Anybody. There's no law that's going to restrict them. And it was called the free banking era from 1837 to 1862. I don't know how the Michigan Act is tied to that, unless it was just part of the same act of Congress that created the state of Michigan, but somehow we got sucked into it. But yeah, so that was just pure chaos. So they call it here wildcat banking is another term for it. These banks didn't last but like 5 years at a time. You know, they're just horrible. There was no centralized security and stuff like that. So when this in 1863, we're talking right during the beginning of the Civil War, it's the National Banking Act. And one of the things they did was created the greenbacks. Remember Lincoln? Created greenbacks. Those greenbacks weren't tied to any gold, weren't tied to any money. It was kind of like a temporary, just use this as exchange kind of deal. Kind of like what we have now. And I don't necessarily know if he was killed for this, but I think after the war, he was trying to, I don't know what he was doing, keep it or what. They weren't considered lawful tender. So you couldn't put the greenbacks back into the bank and expect that to be value of money. You couldn't save it like that. You just had to keep like exchanging it with the public. It's very, very weird. Yeah, and before the Civil War, they suspended the gold standard, so there was no gold tied to the greenbacks or any of the money that they were using then. So, and then after the war by 1878, the gold standard got put back onto the currency. By then, you know, Lincoln's already dead, and all that. Now we're coming up to the Federal Reserve, finally. So by 1907, here we got the names that you may have heard: Paul Wahlberg, Jacob Schiff, who I think is tied to the Rothschilds. I think he was like one of their representatives. They were the ones that were really heading up the big financial banks and pushing for a new central bank to have in the country again. And then we had another 1907 panic. This one, I believe J.P. Morgan was in charge of or his father was in charge of the Federal Reserve, not Federal Reserve, the New York Stock Exchange at that time. And that crashed in the U.S. and caused a panic in 1907. So it was like another proxy for us to get another big bank into play, right? And soon after this, and I didn't look up the dates for it, but I know it's close, is the Titanic. So the Titanic was built, I believe, by J.P. Morgan. I think he financed it. I don't know if we talked about it or if I talked about it with somebody else. But he had a lot of the other bank heads on there, on that ship, and he invited them all on. He's like, this is going to be the best cruise in the world, the best ship in the world, biggest, baddest thing ever to hit the ocean. And then suddenly he didn't make it onto the ship with all of his banker buddies. And you know how it turned out for that ship. It went down with all the heads of the other major banks in the U.S. And that set up the precursor for the creature at Jekyll Island, where these heads of the Rothschilds, the big industries, I don't know if Rockefeller was involved, he might have been, that helped set up the Federal Reserve Act and then proposed that to Congress. And then by, who was it? Woodrow Wilson, president, was the one who helped push it through Congress, and it became law. It became a legislative act that the Federal Reserve would be part of our financial system. Now, it was still heavily regulated by the U.S. government at that time. It couldn't do a whole lot. It was just allowed to start operating as the national bank, right? And it is a private system now. Again, we had our stock market crash, and this is now after the Federal Reserve has already been allowed to operate. Stock market crash, another Great Depression, right? And then when FDR took office in 1933, he told everybody they need to turn in all their jewelry and stuff. They weren't allowed to have it into the U.S. Treasury and into the Federal Reserve System. Start creating a new bulk of bullion for them to loan against. Oh man. And then from there, this is where it starts getting even juicier. I found stuff out that got me going crazy. So by now, we have a new centralized bank. It's privately owned again. It's hooked up to the global network with Bank of England and all of them loaning back and forth. Now we have the 16th Amendment in place. That is the income tax, federal income tax. Because if you think about it, a lot of my stuff, I teach everybody about how we lost our property rights over the Civil War. The land patents were no longer recognized by state governments. I think that was a way for the state governments to say, fuck you, federal government. We're no longer going to let you issue land patents to places in our states, so you can't get revenue from that anymore. That's our business now. And so the federal government in turn said, okay, so now we are going to charge all of the U.S. citizens income tax.
And remember, income tax was passed as a temporary thing, just like these masks. And guess what? It's for our best interest too.
Very low vote, the color of night kind of deal. I mean, just horrible. And then soon after that, we have birth certificates, registration coming out. You have to have birth certificates, Social Security. All that stuff came out right at that time. It was right after the Federal Reserve System and after this federal income tax. So the birth certificate thing, it turns on conspiracy theorists crazy because there's a lot about that I've even looked into myself. It's printed just like a dollar bill. It's got the fancy print around it or a title to your vehicle, It's got the state seal on it or something.
I know what you're talking
it's got
about.
All this. It looks like a fancy certificate.
It's got that feel on it too. It's that paper. It's this nice note.
Right. It looks just like a savings bond. It looks like a financial instrument, and it actually, I believe, is, because
it can be used, traded, and
you look on the fine print. And I'm going to show you real quick if I can pull it up. The fine print of the border on the birth certificate, you'll find this. The same company that prints birth certificates, they print savings bonds, they print your titles for your vehicles, and they make credit cards and stuff like that, are the American Banknote Company. And do they make the dollar bills? No, they don't make the dollar bills. Obviously, that's Federal Reserve. But I should have pulled up images. Sorry. I personally have contacted the headquarters of this company and called them, and it seemed shady as hell. But I asked them, what's your process of making birth certificates and stuff? And they basically say, we get our order from, the DHS, whatever, of the state. We'll get the order of how many certificates they need. They just put a number on there, like a serial number, and say, that's good, and then ship it to the state. And the state will then put in all the information of who it is, blah, 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 blah. But it's the same company that makes financial instruments, debit cards, it is banknotes, but savings bonds and stuff like that. Let me go back and hit images so I can show you what I'm talking about. When you look at these actual documents, it's a very small print along the border. And it's going to give me actual dollar bill notes because that's the way Google works. Come on. So you see this one I'm kind of pointing at right here? That kind of looks like a savings bank note, kind of like almost like a savings bond. It can kind of resemble a birth certificate, but what I'm trying to find, damn it, they're not pulling it up. Anyways, if you ever look at it, it'll be like down on the bottom border print, like along the edge, you'll see American Banknote Company.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's something I did years ago I found out about. So there is some truth to people saying your birth certificate is a financial instrument, and it's used through the IMF for the U.S. to take loans out from the big network. To be like, we produced this many people this year, so we're good on a loan because they're going to get taxed. So charge us, let us get the money now, and these birth certificates are collateral. Yeah, very crooked system we have. Now, let's get into some real good stuff that I think your other guests would love too. Let me close out some of this. And we're going to start tying in Mr. JFK.
Oh, yeah, that's why his ass was blown off. He was going to do the whole silverback dollar and everything.
Yes.
Your boy was going to fucking help us out. Not only that, he was going to get into talking about extraterrestrials, how we're in touch with them, all the alien reproduction vehicles. He was just going to break us all off. And another thing I wanted to mention to you, too, is you're in Michigan. Did you know that you have a Stonehenge in your own Lake Michigan?
No.
You need to look into that. It'll blow your fucking mind.
In the lake?
In the fucking lake, dude.
Wow.
In the lake. Yeah. In the lake is a Stonehenge that is submerged.
I got to look into that.
You need to, because you're really close to it.
Underneath that lake is the biggest reservoir of salt in the entire world.
Really? Oh, so like a big salt dome?
A huge salt mine underneath the lake. Yeah. And that lake is around 700 feet deep. So underneath that, and enough ground, they're mining salt for the entire world.
Who? Cargill, Compass? Who's mining? Do you know?
I don't know.
A huge mega corporation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here we go. So this was, look at all the executive orders we have going on today, right? These people are these governors and everybody are trying to use executive orders against the people, but they can't put them against us. So they're putting it against the businesses and threatening them. Now, what Kennedy did during his time was he did an executive order against, and it wasn't really against, it was to charge his executive department to start to tell this Treasury to start minting silver coins, silver dollars, right? And he told the Federal Reserve, you can no longer use silver certificate dollar bills. You can't use those anymore. No more bills that are tied to silver. We're going to handle the silver market. And he would not allow silver to be sold privately. So silver will be mined and then turned into the federal government, which will buy it from the miners and then coin it. And that'll be the currency that the Federal Reserve can't touch. Now, he said that the Federal Reserve can now start printing $1 and $2 bills and attach that to the gold. So all the Federal Reserve System can attach their bills to the gold, but the silver was strictly U.S. Treasury. And what do you think we have more of in the U.S., gold or silver? Yeah, a lot more silver. All right, that's not as rare. It's not as expensive. So that was such a smart move, but it's probably what did him in, I'm guessing. And this went in what, like he put this in I think 63. Yeah, took up the president's request early 63, got voted on, it passed, put it into law in 63, June of 63. And I'm pretty sure he didn't last too much longer after that. I don't remember exactly when he died, but I think by 64, I think Nixon was in charge, so.
Let me see, I'll type it in.
So and he used a law that was put in by Truman back in the 50s. It was some kind of.
November 22nd, 1963.
Boom. So, shit. Within months, dude. Within months. June he put it in. It was into law, and by November he was dead. And you're going to tell me this wasn't part of him being executed? Get the hell out of here, right?
It's such a shame. You see this nation's attempt to try and correct itself, and then you see the cabal rise up like a wave and just wash away Kennedy. This is, of course, metaphorically speaking, and I feel that every president has just been a fucking puppet until Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And people too, they yes, I love Donald Trump, and this isn't me trying to distance myself from him, but people think the second you mention Trump, you're obsessed with this guy, you suck the Kool-Aid right out of his dick. And it's like, look, Trump is way lesser of two evils. I don't know what else to say. Imagine only having two choices to eat. One is poison, one's a hot dog. Well, a hot dog isn't the healthiest option, but I'd rather consume a hot dog, stay alive longer than the strychnine on a plate. That's the dumbest fucking analogy, but I'm trying to make a point. I love Donald Trump for standing up and things like that. He's the shit. Are there more graceful or more qualified people? I'm sure. I mean, someone like you or I it would be wonderful, or at least maybe I'll have a team of people that make decisions, like a group of elders or whatever that makes decisions for a nation or a state. But I don't know. Anyway, that's more of a philosophical conversation we can have. But with these last couple of minutes, I'm gonna let you wrap up, and then I'm gonna send you a copy of this whole thing. This has been a wonderful talk, by the way.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry I've been so ranty, but man, I had
no, this is not ranty. This needs to get out. You don't understand. Don't apologize. Go ahead. Last minutes.
All right. So after when Nixon came in after JFK, he did the Gold Standard Act. That's where he removed the gold from the Federal Reserve notes. Now they're not attached to anything. So it's basically useless paper, and we're just trusting.
No, it's divorced from its backbone. It's divorced from it's more futile now.
Yeah, and in the military, Fort Knox, I did my basic training there. That's where all the gold bullion was stored for the country, the majority of it, right? It was under guard, but
that's what we're told.
Even while I was there was only maybe one armed guard and maybe a prison style fence around it. But besides that, if all the gold bullion in the country's there, no way. Barely guarded, right? And I guess since Nixon's time, there hasn't been an audit on Fort Knox to check to see how much gold is in there.
And with all of us distracted with this social distance, mask, COVID crap, I mean, I'm sure the House of Representatives is passing some double up on the tax law. I'm so sorry, double up on the taxes for guns and ammo. I mean, they're just doing a bum
Oh
rush.
man.
No, they're proposing, like, while everyone's distracted, worrying about who's wearing a mask, you know what I'm saying? They're
Yeah.
passing some fucking laws or prepping all sorts of bills to really fuck us.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I have the act right here. I'll read it to you. Hold on. For our viewers. Where is it? HR, watch, pull it up on Google. HR 5717.
5717.
House bill, yeah, HR 5717. Boom, it's already, yeah. It's already ready for you. Gun, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And it's being voted on right now?
I don't know enough about it's being proposed or written up. I don't want to get too technical with that because I don't know. I just know it's a thought on paper and it's not good for any gun owners, and that's why I snagged my AK yesterday. But I know you need to rack up on guns, dog. All right, man.
Shit, it was introduced in January.
Well, all this stuff is preconceived. All this, I mean, this whole thing is. Let me move this up.
I don't know. I'll look into it more in type. I got to wrap up before we run out of time.
Yeah, no. Yeah, okay, wrap up.
So getting on back to the Federal Reserve, now that they have the paper off the gold, what are they doing now? The Federal Reserve has now supposedly been telling the banks, we're no longer going to coin money. No coins at all. We're not going to make any more. So now the banks are going to lend out the rest of their coins and then have nothing left, right? And who needs coins? The stores need the coins because people are paying cash and they need change. Kroger, I guess, has already told one of my favorite channels, I think his name is Theoria Apophysis. Smart ass dude, really smart. He usually does like review on camera stuff and all that, but he's really intelligent and he's been looking into this a bit. But I guess Kroger is one of the stores that the manager told him we're getting ready to go cashless. And it's like, Jesus Christ, it's already happening. So this falls right into your Bill Gates Cashless Society, ID 2020, lockstep, right? I then found this. Visa applies for digital dollar blockchain patent, right? Get this shit out. And you know I gotta throw my sucker punch at you once in a while because it's fun to do. I'm gonna show you. This is their design on their patent. I don't know what the hell this ad is doing popping up, but ignore that. Look over in this corner here, Architect Transaction Processing Network. And I know you already recognize that symbol.
The Mason, square and compass.
Yep. So this is going to be part of the network to process the patents or whatever.
Why would they do that? You see, you're just showing me that there's some sort of faction of masonry that I'm not in. You know what I'm saying?
But when you do, let me know because you'll be rich as fuck, I'm sure.
I don't. If money has value, then dude, look.
I got to throw one sucker punch at least an episode. I got to do it. But yeah, crazy shit though, right? This is real. This is from Forbes magazine. It's not like a fake publication. This is from Forbes. And this was in May 14th of this year when this was put out. So everybody check that out because even without the Freemasons being involved, it's already.
No, but why is there a fucking square and compass in the middle of that? That's fucking like, what the fuck? All right, man.
So real quick, to try to finish this up, the state of Michigan, I wanted to know, I could easily find out U.S. Treasury, its money, when it gets money from income taxes and whatever else, it goes to the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve System holds the money for the U.S. Treasury. When the U.S. Treasury needs to borrow, it pulls from the Federal Reserve, right? When you try to look up the state of Michigan's, you can't find out where the hell its Treasury money goes.
Oh, how convenient.
Yeah. It doesn't say. I'm like, does it have its own account at the Federal Reserve? It doesn't tie in. So everywhere I looked, I couldn't find the answer for it, no matter how hard I looked last night. And it just harkens right back to who belongs to who, right?
You're an enemy of the state trying to hold it accountable, Derek.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just crazy. That's mainly the things I wanted to get at you today. And then I asked myself, like, how do we fix this? Do we go barter and trade? Because that causes kind of a stagnant society, you know? That's going to really slow our advance down, going back to barter and trade, not being able to invest in new ideas and stuff like that. And if we keep currency, who's going to be in control of it? You know, we're right back to that problem. So that's all I got, man. Ugh.
We're gonna have to wait till this whole political climate blows over, and all these people kill themselves off, and then we can start anew. I'm thinking we just got to hunker down and survive. We got to be some little squirrels, just chilling in a little nest in our little tree, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Yep.
But, you want to do one again soon? Because I feel like we could just keep going.
What I was thinking of doing is starting to get a little more into religion, because I've been talking about the Jews